Thank you, that's clear. Councillor Casey.
Sandra, you said that the owner wouldn't allow the testing of the tree. Could you tell me who was doing the testing and what stage in the process that was at?
I don't know what stage in the process it was at, Kathy. I do know that the biosecurity team wanted to go onto the site to do some testing and that the owner did not allow this. I don't know whether that was while the consent was being processed or afterwards.
Okay.
I've asked for a report from the biosecurity team to our local board about their involvement in these resource consents. But there's certainly nothing on the record to document their involvement.
Nor to say that the biosecurity team weren't allowed on the... There's nothing at all in here.
No, that has come in my discussions with them.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Lee.
Clarify that. To Board Chair Coney, in regard to your concerns about comments made by council spokespeople about the role of the Waitakere local board in this affair, have council spokespeople corrected the impression that the board was consulted and therefore the implication that the board was okay with it? Has that misinformation been corrected yet?
Not that I'm aware of. I have sent 2 letters to the CEO, but I have yet to have a reply to either of them.
Well, very, very concerning. Thank you.
No other questions?
Sandra, a question I thought.
Councillor Wood.
In the future then, Sandra, what action would you take? Would you consider a board resolution so that your position would be more kind of strengthened? As far as when you're called for information or feedback as to whether a matter should be notified or not notified?
I doubt that the time frame would allow that. We actually don't get a lot of time to turn these around. I mean, and that's a whole other issue. And I'd be interested in my other local board views on this, but we are not resourced to do any of that work. We don't have a staff member who can assist us with them. It's done by the elected members, principally Greg Pressland, and we do have to turn them around pretty quickly. So I think it is worth having more discussions with the consents department about how any changes that we could make to strengthen that advice. Because the other thing about it, although we made that advice on 40 Pataroa Road, there's nothing in the reports from the officers or the Commissioner to say what they thought about our advice. So we just send our stuff in and we never hear back.
And can I just ask, in relation to these trees, now I think there's a status where trees can be designated as notable trees.
Yes, I will comment on that.
Yeah.
For a start off, right now, you can't do that while the unitary plan's in process. That one of the things that was agreed, I don't know whether this was legislation, Dr. Blakely might be able to tell us that, but it is not possible to do other plan changes in Auckland while the unitary plan's in process, so everything would have to wait. That's my understanding. Secondly, to schedule a tree, you nominate the tree, and anybody can nominate a tree. It can be on somebody else's property, and then an assessment is made by various people, and there are criteria, and the criteria are actually pretty restrictive. So very often a tree will be scheduled if it's something like what was planted by the Queen. So there's some historical association with a significant figure. For it to be scheduled as a significant botanical specimen, which is another criteria, it really does have to be top of the pops. And with this tree, although it is a magnificent specimen, there are many other trees like it in the Waitakere Ranges. Not many, but a number. And the other thing, if the landowner objects, it's very rare for the council to schedule an item if the landowner doesn't want it to be scheduled. So there would be a number of obstacles in the way. Have you got something?
Could I also comment? We tried a few years ago, and from memory we scheduled about 90 trees in the area. It took days of hearing and lots of submission and paperwork. there's probably 1 million trees in Titirangi and Langholm, so it would take forever to use that process to protect them.
So can Dr Blakely
We're
say
just going
what...
to ask him to qualify that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so the Auckland Council has rolled over the scheduled trees that were in the previous operative plans of the legacy councils. In addition to that, additional trees have been added to the scheduled list of trees as part of that process since we've become a council. Those have all been rolled into the proposed Auckland Unitary Plan. And the other thing is that anyone can go onto our website, and there is provision there for people to make nominations for scheduled tree sites. People can just fill in the form that's there, and then that will be put into the process.
But can I get you to clarify that? Because my understanding is that the Heritage Department is just collecting any nominations, and it's not able to progress them while the unitary plan process is on.
Yes, that's right. So because we wouldn't be making a plan change, it will then be dealt with in the unitary plan.
So I'm quite keen, and this is the reason why we've got our staff for the extraordinary item. It gives us the chance to go into some of this detail. So I've got Member Taipare.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. Me te kia koutou tēnei wā. Kia koe Sandra, te mana te pōre nei. I guess I heard the question about, I heard the matter about emails that have been sent. I've heard about lack of resourcing and the likes. I just need some understanding, because I think it needs to be asked somewhere along the line, if it hasn't already, is the board able to take a judicial review, and if so, has it, and if it didn't, why didn't it?
It's an interesting question. I can't think of another example where council has taken itself to court to review a decision, although the Waitemata local board was involved in a case involving Auckland Transport. So conceivably it's a possibility. I'm a lawyer by profession, and you're probably looking at $70,000 to $80,000 worth of funding. So we would have to approach the council itself for that sort of money, and I suspect that sort of request would not be met with much sympathy. So a possibility, but an unlikely event.
Just for you, Madam, thank you. Just for you, Madam Chair, it is an issue for me, because in terms of seeking a review and assessing as the recommendations proposed and what I heard the board partially, I think, recommend to that, does leave the question open to where does that sit in relation to a legal process of a judicial review.
Can we cover that in the item?
Definitely, but it was important that I asked that of the board, because what I got out of that is, yes, we could, but there are logistics that would suggest that we may not be able to. So I just wanted that clear. Thank you.
So that is a question that's been asked, and our lawyers will explain that process. I've got Councillor Lee. Quick question from Councillor Lee, and then we'll move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regard to the points raised about scheduling or nominating individual trees in the Waitakere Ranges, do you think that really is superfluous or redundant when you have the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act, which is designed to protect the trees collectively? I mean, that is the distinguishing feature that Parliament inspired Parliament to bring down this Act, and therefore, while protecting individual trees in suburban Auckland is very appropriate, when you have the Heritage Area Act, you're talking about trees in a forest collectively, and this particular, or those particular trees, the two now under threat and the others, are important features of that forest, and therefore taking up Member Taipare's point, whether the council has given particular regard to the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act when it made this consent non-notified, I would have thought would have been eminently reviewable. But I would welcome your thoughts on how the Act, the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Act, which I know both of you, many of you were involved in formulating, how do you think this is working? Or is the council respecting it?
Well, there's been a couple of problems. Central government have consistently tried to change the rules so that blanket tree protection is not possible.
I'm talking about the Act.
Yeah. In terms of the Heritage Area Act itself, it's arguable from a legal point of view that the central government changes to the RMA overruled the protection that we are trying to give to the area, and that it set a new standard, and an act that's passed after another act has priority. So it's an interesting issue and one that could be...
This is not about the decisions being made, we're discussing have not been made by the government, they may be made by the Auckland Council, and my question is, how does the local board feel the council and the consent processes are taking into account or giving particular regard, to use the wording of the Area Act, this particular act, which is to protect the natural features of the Waitakere Ranges, especially the trees?
Councillor Lee, and we will ask, that question will be clarified when we've got our lawyers and planners here. It is complex, and
But maybe from a board's
I would
point of
just
view.
like to know, hang on, Sandra.
What does the board think?
I'd just like to know the view of the board, but I don't expect the board to give a legal...
Okay,
or
so the
are
view of the
able to
board
give a
is
legal-
no, and that is why we had a meeting with the consents team to talk about our concerns in this area last year. And I put this, that question specifically to Heather Harris, Manager Resource Consents, in July last year, and she said, in relation to the third matter, we confirm the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act and the control of kauri dieback are addressed in the officer's recommendation report.
Thank you.
So in the view of the council, they were addressed, but it's difficult to find it in the report.
So I'd like us to pick up the discussion around tree protection rules, the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act, when we've actually got the staff and the lawyers here.
Could
who
I
can
just
answer
make one
that.
quick comment about that?
Quickly, Greg. We're now
Auckland-
almost 2 hours into this.
Auckland Transport, as landowner, they need to respect the Act, and that's one of the issues that we've raised with them. When they make decisions, they ought to understand the area.
Okay.
So the whole council needs to respect the Act. It's the law of the land, is it not?
It's actually one of the goals of our local board,
Okay,
in our
we-
local
no
plan.
one's, let's not go there, though some of us were deeply involved in the preparation of that and did a huge amount of work to get that act happening, so believe you me, we don't take that lightly. I've got Councillor Wood, very quick question.
I've got a quick question. It's just in relation to Auckland Transport and their decision to allow this access between the two carriers. Did they consult the Waitakere Ranges local board in relation to that issue?
You go with that.
No, they didn't, and we have urged them in future to consult with us.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much to our Rangers local board. Thank you for all your good work on this issue.
Thank you.
It's appreciated. Thank you for your time
Make the
today.
right decision.
So, well, this isn't a decision-making body. This is our opportunity to all be briefed and updated on the issue. So I'm going to, we'll now move into